So keeping in mind that I am not an audio guy, let's do some more audio stuff. The first thing I want to do is add a replay button to our quick menu box. And when the player clicks on it, it will simply replay the voice that is currently playing for that line. So let's just grab one of these buttons and copy it, and just paste it in our quick menu box. I'm going to rename this to replay button, and change the text to say replay as well. And now on this buttons on clicked event, we are going to basically do the same thing to play our voices as we did in our dialogue widget. So in our play voice function over here, we're going to do the exact same thing as this. What I'm going to do is actually just make this its own custom function. So let's right click, add event, add a custom event, and we will call this play voice, connect that into our isValid, and off this then1 we are going to call the play voice, and I'm going to drag this somewhere outside of this comment box. And then in our buttons on clicked for our replay button, all we're going to do is call the play voice. So now if we hit play, this is a voice acted line. We get our line, and then if we hit replay, this is a voice acted line. It plays again, and if we hit replay while it is playing the line, it should interrupt it. This is a voice acted line. There we go. So that's how we can replay our current voice. Now I want to make it so that you can stop your music, because that's something that you might want to do. You might want to just not have any music playing. So in our interfaces dialog callbacks on dialog event, we are going to do a switch on the event name. Let's add a pin, and we will simply call this something like stop music. And on stop music, all we have to do is get our components, get the music sound component, ask if it is valid, and if it is valid, then we are going to just stop it, like this. So now in our dialog, our second line has a event on the widget simply called stop music, and then our third line plays a piece of music that is the main menu music. So if we hit play now, we start, this is a voice acted line. There's our music, and then we go to the next line, and the music goes away. But if we go to the next line, the music does not come back. And that is because of the same problem that we had with our voice sound component, and that is when it stops playing, the component thinks it should destroy itself. So back when we actually play our music, we are going to have to check to see if our music sound component is valid or not. So now before we set our sound, we are going to check to see if our music sound component is valid, and if it is not valid, then we are going to have to create another sound 2D. The sound is just this cast to sound wave, and then we are going to have to set our music sound component to be the sound 2D we just created, and then we are going to have to play it. So now that we're checking to see if our music sound component actually exists before we play our music, we don't actually need that function where we create it anymore. So when we do our create sound components, this can just be deleted. And we should probably take care of that in our game instance as well. Over here, when we used to create our sound components, we can just get rid of this and plug this back into our set dialog widget. So if we hit play, we start and we don't get our main menu music anymore, and that is because we are getting an error. If we show our message log, we are accessing none trying to read music sound component in our game mode. So if we click on this, you'll see that we're trying to set the sound for our music sound component over here, but it doesn't exist yet because we got rid of that function that created it. So now instead of setting our sound and playing it, we're just going to call the dialog widgets function to change the music. So off of our dialog widget, we are going to modify name value. Off this value name, we have to drag off here and do a make literal name. The literal name is going to be change music. The name value is going to be whatever your main menu music is. And this false now connects to this modified name value, and this pin now connects back to our add to viewport. So we can get rid of this stuff over here. So if we hit play now, we have our main menu music back. And if we hit start, this is a voice acted line. We have our music over here. Go to the next line, and it stops, and when we go to the next line, it should come back. There it is. Now, the final thing I want to take care of is letting our player change the volume of their music. The way I'm doing it isn't really the Unreal way, I don't think. there's something called a sound class which you can use. If you go to your content browser, right click, go to sounds, and you'll see there is a sound class. And inside of your music, you can set what your sound class is over here. And I believe you can change the volume of your sound class in Blueprints, but I don't actually know how to do it, so I'm going to do it this way. But the way I'm doing it does work, so that's why I never really learned the actual way to do it. Anyways, to change the volume of our music and voices, we need to actually know what we want to change it to. So I'm going to create a new variable, and this variable is going to just be called our volumes. The type is going to be name, and we're going to make this a dictionary. So the value of our dictionary is going to be a float, and that's going to be how loud our music is. So if we compile this, we can add some values to this. I will add a new value. The first one is going to be master, and this is going to be the overall volume of our sounds. So by default, I want this to be 1. Let's add another one for music. Again, I want this to be 1. One more for voices, and I also want to add some entries for each of our characters, so you can adjust the volume for each character if you wanted to. So let's add one for Yuri and Aina. Now when we change our music, we're going to have to update the volume when we create a sound 2D. So let's get our volumes, and off of our music sound component, we are going to have to set volume multiplier. And what we're going to set our new volume multiplier to be is just going to be our master volume times our music volume. So off of our volumes, let's do a find, and we're going to find our master and our music. And then we're just going to multiply these together to get our volume multiplier. So let's plug this into here and see if this works. If we hit play, our music is still the same volume. And if we go back to our volumes and adjust our master volume to something like 0.5 and hit play, the music is significantly lower volume. If we were to change our music also to 0.5 and we hit play, it's again half as loud. If we hit start, this is a voice acted line. The music is still low. And if we stop the music and then go to the next music, the volume is still the same for our music. So that's working all fine. We would want to create the sliders in our options menu, obviously, and in our persistent data, we would also want to save it in there as well. We would want another variable in here for our volume sliders variables. Now to adjust the volumes of our voices, it's not going to be very different. So in our event graph on our play voice, we are going to want to change our volume sound component to volume multiplier. And the volume multiplier for our voices is going to be our master times our voices times our character's name. Let's get our volumes and find our master and our voices. And to find our current speaker's name, we are going to get our dialog context and get active participant name and plug that into this find. So let's just multiply all of these. And by default, the multiply only gives you 2 pins, but you can click this plus sign on this add pin to add another pin. So let's just plug this into here and plug that result into our new volume multiplier. And in our dialog, I changed it so that Yuri is the first speaker and Aina is the second speaker. So if we were to hit play and start the game, this is a voice acted line. This is a voice acted line. They both sound like they are at 100% volume. So if we were to go to our volumes and change the master volume back to 1, this is a voice acted line. This is a voice acted line. Now they're twice as loud because the volume used to be at 0.5 and it went back to 1, so they got twice as loud. If we were to change the voices volume back down to 0.5 and hit play, this is a voice acted line. This is a voice acted line. They go back to being smaller volume. Now I'm going to bring all of these back to 1, and for Yuri, I'm going to set to 0.25. So if we hit play, and you should hear a difference between Yuri's volume and Aina's volume. This is a voice acted line. There you go. So Yuri was significantly lower volume than Aina, and if we do a reverse of that, so that Aina is now 0.25, this is a voice acted line. This is a voice acted line. Aina's volume is now 0.25. So that's all working. So basically you would want to now create your sliders in your option menu, and when you adjust the sliders, you would have to also update the volume multiplier of the voice sound component and the music sound component, and save it in your options, obviously. And you would of course want a slider for each one of these, your master, music, voices, and one for each character. But that's just making sliders, and it's literally the same as setting our text speed, other than having to update your voice multiplier after that, and that should be obvious enough how to do, so I'm not going to bother doing it here. Now the last thing we have to take care of is saving and loading our music. So if we were to hit play right now, this is a voice acted line. We have this music, and if we do a quick save, exit the game, and hit play again, and then load our quick save, this is a voice acted line. We're still on this music, because we're not saving and loading our music. So in our VN save game, we're going to have to add a new variable. I'm just going to make this a name, and it's going to be our music name. So back in our dialog widget, on our event save game, we are going to have to branch on if our music sound component is valid or not. Because what we're going to do if this is valid is we are going to get the sound from it, and we're going to get the sound's object name, and set the save game's music name that we passed in over here to be that object's name. So set music name, like that. However, if this is not valid, then we are going to set the music name to be none. And the reason we're not just using a select over here is because we still need to get the sound from here, and it would give us an error when we try to do that. So instead, we're just going to branch on if this is valid or not. So again, we're going to have to get the save game and set the music name. Plug this execution pin into the is not valid, and we can just leave the music name as none. In our load game function, what we're going to do is get our save game's music name, and we are going to switch on this music name. Let's add a pin for none, so in the case 0, let's just get rid of this and type in none, and you'll see that nothing appears here above the default, normally where the name of our pin would appear, but it is set to none, don't worry about that. You can see that it's set to none right here. And if our music name is none, then what we're going to do is tell our sound component to stop. To do this, we can just do a on dialog event, and the event name is going to be stop music. Our default pin, on the other hand, assumes that our music name is something that is actually a music name. So what we're going to do is just change our music to that. So off our default, we are going to do a modify name value. The value name, of course, is going to be change music, and then for our name value, we can just pass in the music name that we got from our save game that we passed into our load game. So now if we compile and play it, this is our voice acted line. And we start, we have this music, we hit quick save, we close the game, we hit play, we load our quick save. This is a voice acted line. We now have the correct music. And if we go to the next line, this is a voice acted line. And we don't have any music playing, and we do a quick save. We close the game, we hit play, we load our quick save again. This is a voice acted line. We don't have any music. And if we do this one more time, this is a voice acted line. And we're on this music. We do a quick save, we exit, we play, we load our quick save. We have the right music still. So there is now one last issue we have to take care of. If we were to play, this is a voice acted line, and we were to go to our options and then go back to our menu, you'll see that our music does not go back to our main menu music. So that's a really easy fix. We're just going to go to our main menu widget, and when we click our menu button, all we're going to do is get our dialog widget and modify name again. The value name is just going to be change music, and our name value is just going to be the name of our main menu music. So I'm just going to paste that right in there. And if we were to play for the very last time in this video, this is a voice acted line. Go to our options, go to our menu, we go back to our main menu music. So I believe this actually wraps it up for our music, hopefully. If I forgot something, please let me know, but otherwise I will see you in the next video.